I just wanted to go through and highlight some of the resources that VP3N is here for you, to provide for you all. So up here, we do have a VP3N website. We have Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn pages, so feel free to give those a follow as well, and really tag us in anything that is plastic pollution related. Anything that you want to collaborate with on, let us know, and we are happy to do some social media campaigns and posts for you. We also have a YouTube page for Clean Virginia Waterways. This is where things like this meeting go up onto, and we have some favorited videos, some past VP3N and like holiday type or event related webinars, those kind of things. So feel free to check that out. The Clean Virginia Waterways and Keep It Beachy Clean websites are also there, and those are just great information and resource hubs for some of our campaigns that we're doing for consumer debris or cleanups, outreach to restaurants. So again, always feel free to check out those websites and reach out to us if you need anything. And then the Virginia Plastic Pollution Prevention Network also has a listserv, VP3N at cleanvirginiawaterways.org. Feel free to reach out to me if you are not on that but would like to be. That is just a listserv to be able to advertise any events that you're doing, ask questions if you're looking for research papers or events you can get involved in your area. Anything that is plastic pollution or marine debris related, let us know through that listserv. And it's a really active community. And it's really good to hear all of the results that come from that. Recently, we had a student who was looking for help developing a microplastics trap system in stormwater, and the outflow of support and resources was incredible. So I'm really happy that that was there to help her in her research project. But we are still looking for ways to do some communication and make the VP3N work for all of you. And one of the ways that I want to throw this back at our community is to ask for note takers, totally voluntary. It's just that we use Gemini right now, and I'd rather it be human note takers. It's hard for me to facilitate and note take. So if there are any volunteers at any point, feel free to open up that spreadsheet and take some notes for us. The point of the monthly VP3N meetings also is to hear about other perspectives and other things that are going on in the world of marine debris and plastic pollution. So each month we have a guest speaker to find out what's going on, how you can get involved in them, how their work can be applied to Virginia. And so if you have any ideas and speakers or topics that you would like to hear from, feel free to put that in this spreadsheet as well. And then I can, if you have any contact information, put it there, but I can do some outreach to them as well. And then in our newsletter, we have a monthly newsletter that goes out the week before the VP3N meetings. We have at the very bottom a plastic awareness corner. This is for any plastic reduction tips or articles, blogs, research studies maybe that are coming out from your organization. If you have any of those you come across and would like to share, this spreadsheet is for you to compile, or so I can compile those and gradually put them into the newsletters. And lastly, this is a Google form to join the VP3N. And what that means is that we have a better track record of who we are collaborating with and who we're keeping in touch with. Your logo will go up on the VP3N website, so you get some recognition there. And we'll be sure to give you a follow again on social media websites so we can cross-promote and help each other out on that space. So with that, I also want to go through some things that are happening at Clean Virginia Waterways. We have the Virginia Plastic Pollution Prevention Network. This is a giant meeting space for anyone involved in marine debris and plastic pollution across the state. It's a way to organize and, again, collaborate, because that word a lot. But we do have two smaller subgroups going on right now that are more targeted. They're almost like communities of practice. The first one is focusing on Virginia's expanded polystyrene ban that is going into full effect on July 1st, 2026. But in this second round of the ban, because the first stage has already happened, in the second round, any food vendor or food retailer with less than 20 locations will be required to switch away from expanded polystyrene or plastic foam containers. So because these are small businesses, we're putting together this subgroup to develop resources and outreach and just help these companies easily and seamlessly, I suppose, phase out their phone that they may be using, because we don't want this to be a huge cost burden on these small businesses. So if you're interested in joining that group, reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat and we can get you on that listserv and that meeting invite as well. And our second subgroup is talking about plastic bag fees. So Virginia allows each city and county to pass their own plastic bag fee law, which would place a 5-cent fee on plastic grocery bags. At Clean Virginia Waterways, we view this as a good way to reduce plastic pollution. And so if you are interested in that, if you have some movement going on in your city or county, we'd love to have your input there as well. We have a Google folder with some resources from cities across Virginia who have implemented the plastic bag fee already, or who are developing fact sheets and one-pagers and things like that. So again, feel free to email me and I will get you on those listservs and calendar invites. The expanded polystyrene meets the second Friday of each month, and the plastic bag meets the first Wednesday of each month. So with that, I'll put my email in the chat again. And now I want to turn it over to you before we get to our guest speaker today. If anyone has any updates they want to mention, or any questions, advice they want to come bring up, feel free. I'm going to turn the mic over to all of you. And that's my email in the chat. All right, I also just want to throw out there real quick that we do have a newsletter email list and the listserv. It's possible that you may be on one or the other. If you want to be on both, let me know. If you think that you are only on one or only want to be on one, just again, reach out to me by that email and I will get your name wherever it needs to go. All right, so I'm going to introduce the person you're all here to hear from, and stop sharing this right now. I'm very honored to introduce Paulita Bennett-Martin. She is the Senior Strategist of Policy Initiatives at the 5 Gyres Institute. Paulita most recently held multiple positions with the world's largest ocean conservation in the world, Oceana. In her last role, she oversaw plastic policy, where her team swiftly led a successful campaign on the National Park Service to eliminate single-use plastics. Paulita also worked as a direct advisor to the US Senator Sheldon Whitehouse on a climate initiative. Her career started in Belize, where she published the first science on plastic pollution in the nation. She also oversaw a research team studying invasive lionfish in Crucian and Tomæan fishing communities. The Emory University study was funded by NOAA and drew from interdisciplinary science and community building. She now leverages her experience to develop and guide policy work for 5 Gyres, and in her free time, she loves to spend time by the sea and with her family. Paulita, I'm going to share your presentation and I will turn it over to you. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thanks, Joseph. Gosh, I sound like such a nerd. It's always awkward to sit through your bio being read, but thank you very much. Yes, hi everyone, I'm Paulita, and I'm the Senior Strategist for Policy at the 5 Gyres Institute. I just want to make sure that my sound is good, that I'm clear and not breaking up.
You're good,
Okay,
we can hear you.
Good, awesome, okay. So for those of you, I'm sure 5 Gyres is a small organization. We're a dozen people spread out over the United States. And I think that I'll give you a little bit of background there to start with. We're 15 years old this year, coming up on our 15th anniversary. 5 Gyres was essentially created to conduct scientific research. So many expeditions were led by 5 Gyres and other researchers as well, looking at plastic pollution in the ocean. We derive our name, 5 Gyres, from the 5 major ocean current systems, and have spent, I want to say, we've done over 50,000 nautical miles on the sea. So after the first 5 or so years in action, the organization really wanted to develop more of a theory of change. They realized that they had a stronghold on creating science and publishing seminal work on specifically on ocean microplastics. And they wanted to apply that science in meaningful ways to support policy. So in 2015, they stuck their toes in the policy world by working together with groups like Surfrider Foundation and others to pass the 2015 ban on microbeads in wash-off skincare cosmetics, both federally in the United States Congress, but then also it was the same bill was passed in the state of California as well. So that's really where they started to touch on policy, but we're very very deeply working within the science sector. And so what I'm here to talk to you about today is our campaign, Microplastic Free US, which is really a campaign for everybody that cares about this issue. And this campaign was largely inspired by conversations that we had with organizations working maybe 10 years ahead of us in Europe to address different forms of microplastic pollution. And so they have Microplastic Free Europe, and we said, well, why recreate the wheel? Let's really focus on something that can echo what's already being done in other countries and then adapt it for what we see happening in the United States. So I'll go to the next slide. All right, so most of you, all of you probably already know a lot about microplastics, but what we've done with our campaign is make sure that we really dive deeply into microplastics, separating out the two areas, the two general buckets, which is the primary microplastics. Those are the ones that are intentionally added to our market goods like cosmetics or paints or deck coatings, etc. Then we also have the pellets, right? Those are the pre-production plastics. These are things that we call them primary because they were made to be a microplastic and then potentially used in a larger application. Then you have the secondary microplastics, which are those things that we're all familiar with. Again, the fragmenting of larger objects or fiber, or I should say textiles and materials, okay? And so this was really important for us to think about because when we started doing more intentional government outreach and lobbying, we were hearing a lot of interest in the term microplastics, but there wasn't a whole lot of content behind that interest, or there wasn't really context or technical awareness. So I'll go to the next slide. So as we've seen, I would say it's been tracking pretty heavily over the last 5 years. Many of us may know the term microplastics because this is our business. This is what we're working within, is plastics in general. But what we're seeing is that popular media and in the political sphere, the term tracking more and people being open to having conversations about microplastics. We noticed an interest, especially when it came to conservative offices, where we weren't able to really have doors open to talk about banning plastics before, or production caps, or taxes, or anything else. But when it came to microplastics, the conversation, it seemed like there was more of a bridge to cross to really connect about the issue. However, again, once we would dive into the subject of microplastics with different congressional offices, there wasn't necessarily the knowledge behind it. You might hear, yeah, microplastics, that's something we really need to deal with from a staff member. But then when you ask which type of microplastics are you most concerned with, there wasn't really a response, right? And so we knew that we were dealing with something that the term had credibility. The term sounded technical enough to make it an issue that offices could be want to solve, right, for, but the knowledge wasn't there. So we went to work on this with this idea in hand, coupled with the fact that Gyres has a long history already in studying microplastics. We wanted to dive in further here and thought, well, if we keep seeing roadblocks in Congress on bans and production caps, maybe we can use this term and really start to address plastics bit by bit, kind of figuratively, but now literally. I'll go to the next slide. So we came up with a general narrative around this, which really goes back to like health and like the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink, etc., and really tying microplastics to that, especially within the current or contemporary congressional makeup. This has been key. It's been essential for us to be able to have healthy conversations where we don't just get shut down. But one thing that we did to ensure that this was the right narrative is we worked with the Ipsos polling center and we did a national poll so that we could better understand what voters across the country think about microplastics, what they know about microplastics, and what influences them to take change, right? What would they support? All of these different ideas that are swirling around in our head, but without a proper perspective that wasn't done by us, we didn't really know if we were just speaking to ourselves, right? So I'll go to the next slide. What we found, what Ipsos found from their polling was that, again, it echoed what we were experiencing in congressional lobbying meetings, and it echoed what also a little bit of what we were seeing across media. Awareness is high, the term is tracking, knowledge is low, and a really great thing was that by and large, US Americans, Republicans, and Democrats both agreed that there were a lot of great triggers, including policy, including business solutions that should be implemented to solve microplastic pollution. And the one thing that triggered people the most was the impacts between microplastics and public health. So all of them tracked pretty high, but the public health one was definitely the highest. Going on to the next slide. Oh, and I'll share the link to the poll at the end so you all will have, you can look through the data for yourself. So with that, we then knew, okay, we feel that we're on the right track, and we feel that we've identified some key places where we can work to address microplastics and potentially get bipartisan support. So the things that we're currently working on are all listed right here. We have worked to get several bills introduced over the last, since this Congress has been in session, so this year. We have a microfibers bill that's more of a downstream solution because it's about requiring filtration to be put on new appliances in the next 5 years. We also have pre-production microplastics bill that we're currently working on, and that pre-production microplastics bill has been introduced in previous Congresses. It's called the microbeads free water. I'm sorry, no, it's called the Plastic Pellet Free Waters Act. So with that one, what we're trying to do right now is expand it to not just focus on nurdles, but to also include powders and flakes. So as you may know, when we're in the production phase of plastics, we use nurdles. However, we also use powder, we also use flakes, we also use all forms of plastics. And the smaller it gets, the harder it is to manage, and the more potential there is for leakage and pollution. So that bill is in the works right now and will be introduced by Senator Durbin. And then we also have an intentionally added microbeads push that we're working on, and we're trying to find a sponsor for that bill. That would just be to amend the microbeads ban of 2015 to expand it beyond wash-off cosmetics. And then the other thing we've been working on, because in this current Congress, it's difficult to get anything moving. So we've taken a path of talking with offices about the need to study more comprehensively the impacts of microplastics. Those studies could look at the impacts between microplastics and public health, etc. And the angle on that is really leveraging what the conservative members are, echoing. The Health and Human Services has put out a report called Make America Healthy Again. And within that, they point to the risks of microplastics on health, specifically on children. And so we feel that this is a time where we should be looking further into what that actually looks like, right? And what the solutions could be there. So that's everything that and I can send you a list of the bills, but the idea here is to really take the push for plastics policy reform to actually focus it in specifically on microplastics, to keep it very focused. That way we're not spreading out, and then also creating triggers for conservative policymakers, right? When we go, our experience has been over the last 2 to 3 years looking at this. When we go into the offices, we are hearing, we're being received, there's reception to the discussion around microplastics. If you can keep the language there, as much as we want to really address all forms of plastic pollution, right? Like Five Gyres, we know that the number one way to really solve plastics is to not have so much single-use plastics. We know that refill and reuse is the gold, the platinum standard, right? Like we know that there are solutions out there, but getting conservative leaders to actually follow that that path isn't easy. However, if we can start at an entry point that they're open to, then we can start pushing people along, right? And so I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, we really weren't having many positive conversations with Republican offices on the Hill. Now we're having actually more positive conversations, but we've also had two Republicans step up and co-introduce a bill with Senator Merkley and Congresswoman out of Washington, Bynum. So these two members introduced a research bill looking at microplastic pollution. And Senator Rick Scott and Representative Stubbe, both out of Florida, hyper conservative leaders, both stepped in to be part of the introduction of that bill. And it's because the framing of this is really about protecting health and protecting the American people from pollution. It sort of disarms the people that would often be pushing back on us. And so we don't know if it's the silver bullet, definitely aren't suggesting it's a silver bullet, but it's the campaign that we think could get us some progress. And then separately, I'm presenting to you about what's happening federally, right? But we are looking for opportunities to partner in states so that we could potentially push some of these same initiatives forward at the state level or within municipalities. So we just got very close to passing a bill in California called AB 823. And sadly, while it passed both chambers, made it to the governor's desk, there was no pushback. This was like a very non-controversial bill. It was an expansion of the microbeads ban. So instead of it just addressing wash-off cosmetics, we were actually expanding it to address all healthcare products and cleaning agents to remove microplastics from those products. And like I said, it passed both chambers, got to the governor's desk, and got vetoed on the last day it was possible. So we know that there's more, there's some political posturing there because, as we all know, the governor of California would like to aspire to higher offices. And so we really think that that stood in the way of him putting himself on the line for too many environmental bills right now. But it just goes to show that there is an appetite. Even conservative offices in California, which there are many, still supported that amendment to the bill. So I think this is the approach that we're taking, and we're going to continue to support all sorts of other comprehensive legislation. Like once we have a Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act again, we will support that. We support the reuse study bill that came out this year as well. However, our main focus is really trying to build that deeper knowledge and commitment to solving microplastic pollution right now. So thank you very much. I think the next slide just is like, if you have questions or you have comments or anything, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paulita. That was really informative and also uplifting and inspiring. Thank you for that. I do like the graphic here. SOS made out of the plastics. That's cool. Does anyone have any? Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, Zach, go ahead.
Thanks for your presentation. It is uplifting to hear about work going on the federal level. There's been a group of us who are working on some similar bills in Virginia. What's Five Gyres' ability to assist with those, even if it's just showing up to testify at a virtual committee hearing.
We would love to support you, Zach, any way that we
Awesome.
can. Hearings, if there's other technical things, like if you need a fact sheet, or say that your coalition is finding like, we could really use more information about this specific thing, we may be able to help with that. We have a science team of 3 now, actually now 3.5, but we are able to sometimes do like fast and accurate lit reviews. We can also take advice about what sorts of science we should be implementing to help organizations like yours across the country. So yes, please throw us in, ask us for assistance. Happy to be a backup singer to you all.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely take you up on that. You'll be hearing from me multiple times.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. Aileen, go ahead.
I do have a question. It's a great presentation. Great to hear all the wonderful work you're all doing. In Congress, what Virginia legislators are helping in Congress, if at all?
We haven't had a lot of support from Virginia, to be honest. Like I would say we haven't had a lot of support, and yet we haven't really focused yet on building those relationships in Virginia, but maybe together that's something that we could do. We just started hosting 2 years ago. This June was our second one, a week of action in DC, where we work with groups from any state that wants to come together. And we develop all of the educational materials. We set up all the meetings if you're coming from Virginia, we'd be seeking meetings with Virginia offices. But it's a great question. We haven't really had a lot of support out of Virginia. And I can look to see who has actually signed on to any bills at all that we've worked on, but I don't recall much support out of the state yet.
Well, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards.
Okay.
At least for the ones in my district.
Okay, perfect.
To get that connection. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And Aileen, statewide, I know last year there were several microplastics bills in session. 2 of them that stood out to me, I think one was like testing microplastics in drinking water, and then just some more broad research ones. Sorry, I don't really remember the specifics of them, but I don't believe they got far. So at least statewide, there were bills. There is a movement. John, go ahead.
I see on your website, oceans, do you do testing in freshwater? Like it's a big problem in the Great Lakes and really everywhere. It's a problem everywhere.
Yes. So the team has started moving what we would say like more upstream. We're actually doing some testing on microplastics in floating wetlands, and that's more inshore. And I think we're doing those up in Rhode Island area, and I can't remember the second location right now. But I can follow up though to share information. We're also doing data collection in some of the national parks. So Dr. Fulfer is working on that, and they are looking at soil and water. So we're looking kind of at all places now. We also just secured support to do a carpet study for fibers in air. We're looking at air quality as well. So there's a lot of exploration right now that we're expanding into. We will always keep some of our ocean stuff, but there are a lot more players that are in the ocean marine plastic space. So we're looking really to innovate and figure out what's happening with microplastics beyond the ocean now.
I heard some talks about university research in Lake Erie. So if I can find that, I'll send it to you.
That'd be awesome. And there's also, just if anyone's really interested in microplastics, there's the first International Microplastics Conference scheduled for January 2025 in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Did it already happen, or is it this January?
It's this January, yeah, and it's hosted by the university in partnership with some large foundations, I believe, and seems like it's shaping up to be a lot of people looking. Like there's a whole section that's focused on research, science, then another section on policy, and then they want to do some sort of workshopping, think tanking. So I think that it sounds like a great event. Five Gyres will be there and be speaking. So if other folks want to check it out, I can share a link after our call.
Very cool. Please do. Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, the bills you were referencing, Joe, it was the HB 2178 was the regulation of discharging pre-production plastic pellets. And then the other one was a work group to study the occurrence of microplastic in Virginia's drinking water. Put a link into the chat for folks for litterfreeva.org. I mean, we track all of the plastic and solid waste related legislation that goes through Virginia.
Thank you. I was going to ask if you were reading that off somewhere or if you just knew that, because that would have been very impressive. And
I do know most of it, but I figured I'd get the exact language from the website we put together.
Thank you. Christina, real quick before I get to you, Paulita, you said floating wetlands. Can you clarify what that is?
Yeah, I mean, they're basically these net systems that look a lot like a wetland, but they float on the top of the water of a wetland, mimicking, like biomimicry of what a wetland would be like. And they put them in places to collect data on, well, one, to see how they work to stabilize ecosystems, but then two, to see about different types of effluent being captured in these wetlands. So it could be different toxins or chemicals that are discharged from local areas. But Dr. Fulfer is actually looking also at microplastics that are being captured in these floating wetlands. And then thinking about like, how does it actually impact those ecosystems, but how those ecosystems may also offer service as a filtration system in a way.
Interesting. Okay. That's good to know. I was wondering if the research being done there was to see if the floating wetlands themselves were discharging microplastics, like if they're shedding from the nets or, I don't know, construction materials.
So you bring up a great point. We've talked about that because they're being made with plastic, the nets. So it's like, how do we know what is and what isn't? And we brought that up. That would be a really great science deep dive if you guys ever want one, because there are ways to kind of tell what's coming from what once they get it under the microscope. But I've seen them personally. I've never been to the one we're doing in Rhode Island, but I just saw one in use in Florida a couple months ago. And it's pretty incredible how they're not actually studying contamination or toxins or waste or anything, but the amount that they're capturing of plastics is notable. So because they're getting like local discharge, plus their floating wetlands are pretty near a main road, US 1. So it's interesting because there's a lot of people testing out these floating wetlands for different reasons. They're becoming more of a sort of a research and, approach.
Thank you. Christina?
Thank you for your talk. That was very interesting. I do have two questions. So I was shocked to see, because when I buy clothes, I really try hard to buy cotton or bamboo or hemp or something that's not plastic. But someone made a comment that those fibers are still creating a problem because of chemicals or whatever is being found. They're not really biodegrading. And then my second question is, in Virginia, we've got the EPS foam phase out. So a lot of restaurants and events and whoever, and this has already been happening, they're switching over to compostables, such as corn plastic, sugar plastic, PLA, that kind of thing. We all know that unless they make it into the commercial composting system, that they're behaving the same way regular plastic is. So I'm curious if you guys are starting to see more and more of these compostable plastics as microplastics in the environment.
We have not looked at that yet. we don't have like a study necessarily looking at that. And sorry, I'm also dropping information in the chat right now too. But that is a really anecdotally, yes, we're seeing that like in the Caribbean, because I spend a lot of time working in the Caribbean too, because everyone's moving to those biodegradable packages because of all the laws that have been passed everywhere. And so we're finding more fragments of those different quote unquote biodegradable packages, but they're not. They're often just not truly biodegradable or compostable. A lot of the ones that I've seen breaking down actually say they're compostable, but when you look them up, their brand name, you'll find that they're compostable through proprietary equipment for that specific product. And in the Caribbean, there's none of that like high-tech equipment for treating those compostables. But that would be a very cool study in a way, because our organization Gyres also looks at alternative materials. So we're embarking on alternative materials 3.0, which is a study where we look at over time the breakdown of these compostable or biodegradable materials to look at what's actually working. Is any of it working, or is it just breaking up? And that study I think we just got several companies to donate materials so that we basically work within multiple regions of the country to put the materials in a contained area in the ground. Different geographies, different climates, different moisture, all of those things, right? But then unearthing them at the same time, and then documenting them in the same way. And we're looking at things like, PLA, we're looking at a lot of the seaweed-based products that are coming out, the corn product, like all of it. And it's going to be interesting because that's the push, right? Is to like start making all those materials. But which ones actually do what they say they're going to do isn't really clear at this point. It's just a kind of a free-for-all.
Someone's been doing a very good job of selling marine biodegradable straws down here at the oceanfront, because I've seen a few restaurants with them, and I feel bad. Like, don't throw it in the water, okay? Just because it's biodegradable. Like, there's so many, or the other one is the agave fiber straws. They're marine biodegradable, but how long do they have to be in the marine environment? And are they degrading? Are they biodegrading? Like, I just feel bad for these restaurants. They're spending all this extra money. They think they're doing the right thing. They want to believe they're doing the right thing. And the reality is they're doing a better thing, but and it shouldn't be their responsibility to do the research to make sure that the straws that are being advertised that way are actually, you can throw it in the ocean and it's going to turn into, organic sludge. I doubt it. I just can't believe that's happening.
Right.
So,
and why are we like, why is that even a priority to be able to develop things that we say like it's okay to throw it in the water? I mean, that's a very
like the six-pack ring. Have you seen that one with got the CGI turtles eating the six-pack ring because it's edible?
So strange, but that like it's definitely difficult to get the idea of refill and reuse and sort of, less is more. I think obviously because everybody's always promoting more production and more money and more revenue. But there are some products that are proving to break down. And I can also add this, I have a summary of stuff to send you all at the end that has the bills and has the link to our campaign, the data from the poll, and then I can also make sure that I link the Better Alternatives report. They have good summaries with like which materials that Dr. Erickson and Dr. Ertl are seeing break down quickly and what that actually means, not just break up. Like, because often if things fragment and break up, we see that as breaking down, right? But it may just become micro-sized and and it's in the environment, but we just don't see it any longer. So, yeah. Anyways, thank you guys so much for for the questions and everything. I would love to work with you all in Virginia. We actually are just bringing on a state campaigns manager who will be based out of California, but able to work in provide lots of support to different states. And I think there's a lot of good opportunity to get things moving. And a big part of this, right, is just building confidence and education out within the decision makers. Because if they only know a term and they don't really know much behind it, then nothing's really going to get done on it. So the more that I was shocked going into offices like Senator Ted Cruz, Senator Rick Scott, and having their team actually follow up with me for further information, because they're honest, the staff members are honestly concerned. That doesn't mean that equals that the senator becomes concerned, but they are the gatekeepers, right? They are the ones that go to staff meeting with the senators to inform them. And so some of these people are concerned because they, if it's not the issue of the ocean that they care about, it's the issue of health, reproductive health, their children's health. And then for other people, for some of the offices, it is about the ocean. The team at Rick Scott's office, everyone's a beach person, everyone surfs, everyone cares about those things. Even if they don't align on in other ways, they do align on that. So I think that we have a lot of education to do, but this could be a really smart vehicle for that education. John.
Europe's ahead of us in a lot of environmental privacy things. Have they already done some of these studies, or have products that people are searching for, compostable things? Or seems like
I've not asked them, but there's a group in Europe called Plastic Soup Foundation. Are you all familiar with them? Okay, so they might be a good one to look on their website, because they are involved in many of those early innovative studies on plastics, and they're largely who's been pushing for the continued expansion of bans on intentionally added microplastics like beads. And they also have gotten as far as, I think, even having the fragrance pouches. They're called encapsulates. Those are made with plastic as well. They're like the little tiny micro-sized things that create the scent in the products that we buy. They've pushed their policies far enough to even be able to get rid of those things, which, in working in California on that subject, when we got to encapsulates, people's heads were spinning. They were like, no, we're not going there, because we don't even know about the encapsulates, which I get. But I bet they have looked at these materials as well. Christina.
Your encapsulates make me think of the Tide pods and the dishwasher pods. And I was so excited when laundry detergent strips came out. And then I found out about polyvinyl alcohol. And there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of science backing up whether or not it's actually biodegradable. I think it's on the EPA safe list, but it has to meet certain standards in the wastewater treatment plant before it actually does start to break down. You know anything about that stuff?
We haven't really touched the pods much or worked on that. But it's been something that we've thought about looking at. I don't really know much on the pods, other than there's an issue with them because they don't truly break down, and they often actually impact the machines. So there's a cost to the consumer as well as the environment. So I don't know, maybe someone else has more to add there. Safe laundry sheet. Yes, I've seen the laundry sheets. I use the laundry sheets.
Yeah, I just
Those are
remember
good.
I was with my business, I was selling True Earth, and then I started reading, or somebody mentioned about the polyvinyl alcohol, that it was, and that's in all of the ones that I've seen and read the ingredients on. And it's not that it's proven to become microplastics, it's that it has not proven to not become microplastics. There's just not enough science on it. And like it has to reach a certain temperature, like when it gets into the wastewater treatment plant. So again, it's on the EPA safe list, but what does that really mean, especially these days? Is it actually safe for the environment? I stopped using it. I just get some locally made powdered laundry detergent now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was just curious if that is something that you have run into, because they're huge. People love them. They're so easy to use, and
Yeah.
that they're not great. Maybe we don't know.
Now the laundry pods, I haven't heard as much, like heard people talk about that issue as much, but I know for a fact that the dishwashing pods have become a problem, because like you pointed out, they have to reach a certain temperature, and every dishwasher doesn't hit that, and so they're not actually breaking down at all. They're just kind of melting a bit, and they're kind of coming apart, but they're actually clogging dishwashers.
Yeah.
So who knows? I don't know if they're doing the same thing to washing machines, but the laundry sheets I think are a great alternative from what
You're talking about the strips?
Yeah, they're just kind of like look like a dryer sheet almost, but they're soft, and as soon as the water hits them, they turn into soap.
Yeah. Those are the ones that have the polyvinyl alcohol in them.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I see vinyl, I'm like, wait, what?
Okay, so that's in even the laundry sheets, you're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It sounds like there's a lot of unknown around that. Or not being talked about around that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of good discussion, a lot of good topics here that yeah, there's a lot of unknowns, but we have just a few more minutes, Paulita, and I wanted to wrap up with some questions I thought might be related to kind of public outreach. So one of the first things you mentioned was that microplastics was a good way to get the doors open for you in legislators' offices who were unwilling previously to talk about like bans or taxes or anything. What do you think was the turning point where like the public became aware, that people became aware of microplastic as a term and like started caring about it?
For the public side, I don't know. I sensed that when people started hearing about our ingestion rate of plastics, when people start hearing about it in our organs, major organs, when articles came out about it being in our lungs, especially when articles come out talking about it being in semen, things that trigger people like that, when they hear those things, it's like a loud flag that piques people's interest. But on the other side, for the government, for the lawmakers, I think that the Health and Human Services report really uplifted that flag. Like I definitely think that more offices were like, okay, so this is something we're acknowledging as a nation now.
That's cool. Interesting. And I know anecdotally over the last few years, the work has definitely gone from here's what a microplastic is to, yeah, here's where they are and what can we do about it. The
Right.
public awareness has definitely increased so much. And my last question is just on what's next, basically, is the question. What are some of 5 Gyres' priorities over the next 1 year, 5 years?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So one thing that we definitely want to do is we want to get the pre-production plastic bill out in Congress. We think that Senator Durbin will lead on this, as he's mentioned it being a legacy piece for him because he's retiring after this Congress. So we want to get that out there, and we really want to get bipartisan support on the bill. That's one thing. Number 2 is I think that there is a great opportunity to work on intentionally added microplastics legislation in states, as well as filtration legislation in states, because states can have jurisdiction on those things, on what products are coming across their state borders. And so I really think that those show a lot of promise. And so we'll continue working in California where we've always had a presence, but we're looking at other states to partner with now that are excited about introducing a bill like that and getting out there. And then third, we're also doing a lot of defense. So we've been asked to partner with some groups in Florida to help defend against even worse preemption policies. Florida is a preemption state where local municipalities cannot do anything to prevent plastic pollution. But now they're looking to actually remove the opportunity for even the government offices to have policies on purchasing plastics. So we will be doing some defense, and we will probably also have to do defense at the federal level as well on certain things, because there was a bad plastics research bill introduced, and we think that there will be another bad plastics bill, a comprehensive bill that will push chemical and advanced recycling that will be introduced as well. So we don't have those bills, one of them exists, the other one doesn't, but we can see due to the makeup of Congress and the White House, we will have to do some defense from time to time.
Thank you for that. I really want to latch on to point number 2 there with the state work. I really hope that all of us here on the call can find ways to work with 5 Gyres and help with efforts across Virginia. Especially next year, we will have a new governor administration, and so plenty of opportunities with new legislators and whoever gets voted in across the state, new people to work with. So
Definitely.
lots of room to
And
work
how,
on plastics.
what is your state assembly like? Do you have a working House and Senate, or is it all year round, or how does your government work in Virginia?
Can I pass it over to Zach?
We are a part-time legislature. In even years, we have a long session of 60 days. Odd years, we have a short session of 45 days.
Okay.
So it creates a system where we have 60 days to get through 5,000 or so bills, which is frustrating in some aspects, but it also makes legislators really dependent on outside groups to tell them what a bill means.
Right.
So when that happens, we have the opportunity to get in to refute industry talking points.
Okay, that's great to know. And then is there a limit on how many bills members can introduce
In
per year?
long session, typically there isn't. In the short session, there usually is,
Okay.
but it varies. When there's a limit, it's usually like 15-ish.
Oh,
Or-
wow. That's, okay.
Yeah,
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thanks for the answer, Zach. Thank you, Paulita. This was a great talk, great discussion afterwards. For everyone here in the meeting, my email is in the chat, so please reach out if you need anything. Paulita's email was on the last slide, so you can view that in the video afterwards. And yeah, thank you all for being here. I'll send out the meeting minutes after this meeting at some point. And yeah, thank you all. I hope to see you next month. And again, feel free to use that listserv in the meantime so we can continue communications between meetings.
thank you, Paulita.